Alright, moving on to our next Patreon request, and this one comes from Brittany Digger, who asked me to do a Sailor Moon Owl House crossover. As always, if you guys would like to have a Patreon request done, just hit the link below, head on over to my Patreon, where you guys can hit the 3rd tier. That will allow you access to do so, as well as check out all the other videos on the other 2 tiers as well. But other than that, let's get started with the video. So let's talk about this crossover. So the story basically begins with it's set after the events of Owl House. Like, we're in basically the end of the after the end of the show, and Luz is contemplating a big question. Like, she's contemplating arguably the biggest question of her life ever since following Albert into the demon realm. And that basically is the big question she's trying to ask herself is, I want to ask Amity to marry me. And the first person she goes to is, of course, her mother, and she's talking about it, and she's like, your father was your father was very nervous about asking me, even though it was kind of read it all over his face, and I'm sure Amity's probably thought of, can probably read you pretty well. But she's like, no, I'm cool as a cucumber. I'm totally 100%, totally, not prepared for this. What if she says no? It'll ruin everything. And of course, Camilla has to calm down her daughter. Meanwhile, on the other side of, in Japan, you have Uranus and Neptune just kind of like on a date. They haven't really had a date. This is obviously before the events of, Sailor Galaxia showing up, so they're still very much alive and well. So they're basically like, hey, it's just kind of nice to have a nice, relaxing time and just kind of, take it easy. It's just kind of nice to be, it's just kind of nice to have like a solid, quiet moment, because we don't really get that. We never hardly get that in any way, shape, or form. So it's just kind of nice to have just a nice, quiet dinner without, some giant monster or something happening. However, as Uranus and Neptune are having this dinner, obviously, and they're human, they're just at a fancy restaurant. Uranus keeps hearing like some kind of voice, like almost like a song. It starts out as a whisper, but then it starts to grow, and then Neptune starts to hear it, and they're like, they're trying to stay calm, but Neptune points out, you kind of notice that no one else can hear this. Look around at this restaurant. Like, no one is reacting the same way. So keep your cool. Let's just pay the check and figure this out, because it's obviously targeted at us. And Uranus is just like, whoever has ruined my date, I'm going to rend their head from their shoulders with my bare fucking hands. So, yeah. So obviously Uranus and Neptune step out, and they're out investigating where the song is. Meanwhile, back with Luz, she's gone back to the Boiling Isles, and is like, she's pouring sweat but before she does, she needs like another talk with someone else who will give her great advice, and that of course is Ida. And Ida's like, I'm not much of the marrying type. I was married a few times. I should tell you about a guy named Stan. He was the worst. But Amity's not like that, and you two were clearly meant for each other. But as Luz is like talking to Ida, she's like, hey, do you hear some kind of song? And they're like, no. What's going on? It's like, it just feels kind of weird. And Luz is like, what's going on? And she's hearing it and follows it just as Amity's coming to Ida's house, and she's like, oh, hey, Luz, do you hear something? Were you singing? And she's like, no, they don't hear it. Do you hear? So they're like, oh no, this is obvious. This is something bad. And they like, Ida, stay here. Whatever it is clearly calling to us. So as Amity and Luz are investigating the source of this song, Amity's like, so did you want to ask me anything? No, I didn't want to ask anything. How's the only thing I wanted to ask was like, how is your day? Is the sky still blue? Is Emra and Edric still are still your siblings? Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, we're fine. I didn't want to ask you anything life changer or anything. And Amity's like, oh, okay. So eventually the two find, the two discover that whatever the source of this song is, it's growing as it's growing stronger, it's almost to like an area where Titan bleed is occurring. And they're like, wait a minute, there shouldn't be any more Titan bleed because, King's dad's gone. Like, his soul's gone, so why is this still here? And they're like, maybe it's just some leftover residue. And they're like, and Amity's like, maybe we should go back and get like help from Ida and King and the others. And to which Luz is like, whatever this is clearly, targeted at us. And I don't want to have anyone else, caught in the middle of whatever this is. So it's best we just, figure this out for ourselves. Besides, Team Lumity can figure out anything, am I right? And Amity's just like, all right, let's go. So they go through and they end up in Japan. They end up in Japan, and at first Amity's like, what is this world? And Luz immediately starts freaking out because she's like, oh my god, we're in Tokyo! It's every weeb's, fantasy land. But still, act like a normal human being. I'm glad I showered too. And they're like, oh, so this is, so Amity's like, so this is like Earth, right? And she's like, it's the best part of Earth. I mean, aside from a few theme parks here and there, but here you can get all of your weeb dreams can come true. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's it's utterly fantastical. Other words that mean great. And Amity's like, I think you're overhyping this. I am. Do you know the language here? I don't. So they do realize that the source of the song is here, and that's when they encounter Mercury and Uranus and Neptune. And Uranus and Neptune, of course, think that they are the cause of whatever this song is. And Uranus and Neptune encounter them, and Luz is like, holy crap, those are Sailor Guardians. I saw them on the news. They're like defenders of Japan. Do you guys know Sailor Moon? Do you guys even speak English? And they're like, yeah, we speak English. Also, you're going to tell us why you brought us here. And they're like, why we brought you here? For what? Like, what did, what do you think we brought you here for? And that's when the landscape around the four of them starts to change and form into something else. Basically a more fleshy, like, almost like they're entombed inside this, they're like entombed inside like this wall, like they've always been swallowed by some monster, like some kind of creature has consumed them and is now like trapped them inside of it. So immediately Luz, Amity, and Neptune and Uranus all get ready for a fight, and that's when they hear a voice and is like, finally, I caught all four of you. Like, all four of you have, I finally, and it's some female voice. And it turns out it's this demon, this female demon, this demon who has been following the two couples. And she's like, out of everyone I've seen for so long, I have fed on the love of, various partners, but you four have probably the biggest concentration of love I've ever seen. And does it does it do my heart great to see that, one of you comes from the place I came from. And she's like, you're from the Boiling Isles? And he's like, long time ago. I came here, I came from the Boiling Isles to Earth during ages ago, and have been feeding on mankind, the love of mankind forever. But to my surprise, I have a human here, a witch, and two Sailor Guardians. And I never thought you guys could love as much as, as anyone else. So I look forward to feeding on your love, for the longest time, for eons. You will be digested within me for all eternity. And Luz is like, does anyone agree with that? And everyone's like, no, thought so. Get her. So all four of them, unite and team up to fight, this demon woman, this demon. And as they're fighting her, she's getting completely, she's getting angrier and angrier as the fight progresses, because she's like, why should you all get what I never had? Why do you four have love that I was never able to attain? And Luz, as they're fighting, is like, hang on, hold up, wait a minute, something's not right. So Luz in that minute is like, all right, guys, time out, because like there's something wrong here. And Uranus like is like, fuck that, and just leaves like a wounding blow on her. And this demon, like, Luz is talking to her because she's like, hey, wait a minute, time out. Let's, something's obviously not right here. Let's try to figure out what, why she really wants us, and because something tells me there's more to this. So Luz is, like, talking to her as she's, crawled up and all wounded, and they're like, okay, why are you really attacking us and feeding off of us? And the demon explains that she did come here to Earth ages ago during the feudal era and fell in love with this shogun's princess. The two fell in love. They became, secret lovers. But the father hated. Not only he's his daughter's in love with a demon, a female demon no less, and had her killed, and a group of priests seal the demon here in this area. So since then, she's the only love she's felt is feeding on the love of others. So yeah, Luz is like, I'm sorry that happened to you, but what you have to understand that what you're doing is completely wrong. And she's like, why do you get to have what I never got? Like, what makes you so different? And in that moment, she's just like, what happened to you was so wrong, but you don't get to lash out at everyone else. And the demon just doesn't listen to Luz's words, and Uranus and Neptune, along with Amity, all put the killing blow on her. They're freed from the demon's hold on them, and yeah, Luz feels pretty sorry for her because she's like, she got, she was denied what the four of us never get to have, like actual love. Like, she was denied that from the world. I'm glad we get to have that in this day and age. Even Neptune and Uranus immediately goes, don't be so naive. The world is still filled with that with her lover's father out there in the world trying to actively destroy us. It's our job to keep fighting for that. And she's like, yeah, and with the first moment I'm going to do this, and Luz is like, I have a big answer. Yes, I will marry you. Amity immediately cuts her off. Is like, yes, I will marry you. And she's like, oh, you knew that was gonna? Yes, I knew. You telegraphed this shit so easy. Oh. So she accepts. So Amity accepts Luz's marriage proposal, and yeah, all is well that ends well. So there you go, guys. That is the Sailor Moon Owl House crossover. I want to thank Brittany Digger for coming up with this story and Patreon quest and continued patronage. And other than that, hope y'all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.